clarity, that could uniquely position XRP. So now you want to turn that XRP into a wealth machine. And that's what's being built here. DeFi ecosystem is a wealth machine.
Automated market makers, I think, will help improve that liquidity because they can capture a long tail of assets better than technologies like order books can.
And a sort of secret sauce that will allow liquidity providers to get more of the profits normally lost to arbitrage, and it will be bolstered by incentive programs. The value proposition of XRP is that it has these liquidity pools. Automated market makers on the XRP ledger could be a game changer, uniquely positioning it to leapfrog other DEXs.
The XRP Ledger is poised to become an ecosystem of cooperatively interconnected XRPL protocol chains.
I'm just personally really excited about this automated market maker proposal. In almost every other arena, volatility is a minus. An automated market maker turns volatility into yield. Volatility is inefficiency. You can always make a profit by reducing some inefficiency. Super exciting for me personally. I don't know that other people are as excited about it as I am. I hope they are, because I think it's cool. And we've done some unique things in the way we implemented it, ways that essentially the yield. It's effectively a way to lend money to an automated machine that makes money through implementing trading strategies and through making markets. We'll see if that delivers on my excitement.
With other approaches, try to eliminate the problem of this volatility or asymmetric trading. Instead, we try to think that how we can optimize this problem for all participants.
Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh. His job, he might be CTO, but his job is chief strategist. This is his strategy and predicting where the market's going to be. Liquidity, tokenization, compliance, custody. That's their focus. And what does this mean for XRP? It's gotten much bigger, but we're only at the beginning.
XRP getting added now because it's the one with regulatory clarity. That will drive the speculation to match where it's supposed to be in the market, saying the future utility is going to be, we're not even close to what that should be. And then once that storage demand hits with the AMMs, and we start seeing now there's more demand to hold the asset because you could earn yield, and then the escrow and the distribution gets programmed with clarity, that could uniquely position XRP. So now you want to turn that XRP into a wealth machine. And that's what's being built here. DeFi ecosystem is a wealth machine.
One of the things that we're doing is we're looking at the barriers to enterprise adoption of DeFi and Web3 technologies. What's preventing enterprises from using those technologies? And there's areas in tokenization, in liquidity, in compliance, identity, those kinds of barriers to sort of institutional adoption. Just like the internet, I think, we think, that institutional adoption can be a huge driver of DeFi growth and can make it more attractive to these bottom-up approaches. And that's something that is hard to do on a small scale. So I think that's something where Ripple's unique ability, the things that Ripple has, the people that we have, the money that we have, and the sort of the skill set that we've built around building software that enterprises can rely on is unique.
Help everyone make sense of this, because I've just had to spend a lot of time researching it to really understand the grasp. So I put in a lot of hours digging into this and trying to understand it and then apply it to what else is being built out there and then to their core technology. And knowing like that there's a distributed platform there, that's important to know. Like, without knowing that, you could think like, oh, well, okay, they have liquidity hub, but they're building a currency exchange.
It's great context. I think many of our audience don't know that we have an internal platform that allows to power ODL and so allows crypto liquidity.
Me to Ripple's CBDC solution. And this is the thing that me and my team have been working on for the better part of a year. And I'm really excited to share that with you today. So there's kind of two components. The first is what we call the CBDC Ledger. So we've taken the open source XRP Ledger software and we've essentially deployed it in a private network for our central banking partners. This might seem alarming at first, but it's not, and I'll show you why in a minute. It's actually really great for central banks and for the XRP Ledger community. Just to go a little deeper on like what's the difference between the XRP Ledger and a CBDC Ledger. At the top, it's pretty much the same software, but because of amendments and an open source code base, central banks can actually vote in new amendments. They can create different functionality in their ledgers, pretty different currencies. XRP, of course, is the native counterparty-less digital token of the XRP Ledger, and CBDC is going to represent a fiat currency, and it will be controlled by central banks. So let's talk about sort of those two-sided benefits of why we think this is actually a great development for central banks and for the XRP Ledger community. So first is, why will central banks benefit from not being on the XRP Ledger mainnet? When we first started the project, we thought, gee, let's just use issued currencies and have central banks use the public mainnet directly. It turns out that the first box, the proven security of the ledger, exists in both places, but this yellow kind of middle box is really the key reason. So central banks want to control their national currency. That makes sense. In fact, they have a duty to do that. But we want to be able to allow them to innovate and the XRP Ledger community to innovate independently of each other, because it's natural that between all of the world's countries and our community, interests will be different. And that's a good thing. That will create innovation. And so I'll talk in a minute here about how that can work, how kind of the two systems can communicate. But the great thing for central bank deployments is, because we're using the XRP Ledger software, all of the tooling that we make as a community has dual use. So that's great for bankers, it's great for developers. Why is this good for the XRP Ledger? Well, one is risk reduction. So the ledger's been running for a very long time without outages. It's very secure, and that goes to the brand of XRP and the XRP Ledger. So there's a natural, it's natural to want to go a little slow. We want to protect that investment of what we have now. But we do want to be able to innovate. And so we're really taking advantage of recently announced technology called sidechains, which hopefully many of you are familiar about, and federation. So we're hoping that we can innovate in CBDC world, and the XRP Ledger community can innovate in XRP land, and we can share with each other, essentially. So central banks can take good stuff from XRP Ledger, like hooks maybe, and the XRP Ledger community might be able to take some new innovations from central bank deployments. And that goes to the heart of value transfer as well, and utility. The second component we're building is something we call the CBDC Manager. So I want to shift a little bit just to some examples of how CBDCs can work together in the XRP Ledger community and why this is good for everybody. So you've probably seen in the news recently, El Salvador, they recently made Bitcoin legal tender. El Salvador was actually dollarized in 2001. So if you imagine El Salvador deploying a hypothetical CBDC ledger running on Ripple technology, again, all hypothetical, they would obviously have USD. That's their prime fiat currency. But they would have Bitcoin as well. And wouldn't it be great if you could actually create markets on Ledger for El Salvador's version of Bitcoin and their version of USD. And so we can enable this for any central banking partner. That's great. And we can imagine a hypothetical US central bank running Ripple technology. In this case, they obviously have USD, but USDC is another example of a stablecoin that's quite popular. And we can connect these two through sidechain federation. But it gets better, because with sidechains we can keep going, and we can even connect this into the XRP Ledger mainnet. Now, of course, this would depend on governance structures in any given nationality. But technically, using XRP Ledger technology in this way, we can do really amazing things. We can literally create a new financial system based on central bank money. So this is kind of a zoomed out view of that financial system. On the left, you have CBDC ledgers, you have XRP Ledger, you maybe have XRPL sidechains running new technologies, maybe like hooks. But we know that not every central bank is going to deploy Ripple technology. So we need to account for that as well. So on the right, you can kind of see, well, there's the Bitcoin network. There might be custom CBDC networks running on a variety of other software. And we can use other technologies. You'll hear more about Interledger today and tomorrow. RippleNet is a core functional, a core piece of software that can bridge the gap between XRP Ledger and other networks. And then there's just third-party exchanges. This is probably the simplest way to move from one network to another. So we really think this is the future of money.
Looking back at last year's 2022 Ripple New Value Report, and there's a general consensus that crypto, like other tokenized assets, will have a significant or even massive impact in the coming 5 years. Now, this is how they close out the 2022 report from a year ago. We believe institutional DeFi will take off in the next few years, pending clear and supportive regulation, with the benefit of zero-knowledge proofs to help solve decentralized compliance. Overall, this year will be an important one for proving these use cases out on a greater scale among a larger number of participants, while continuing to enhance the underlying technology. They were already focused on this over a year ago. So what is it they're talking about proving out the use cases? It's the private CBDC platform and the revamping of RippleNet and Liquidity Hub and the trading platform to work in coordination with these applications.
The technology is based on the public XRP Ledger, which has been in production for the last decade. So it's a very robust core technology with a great track record. And it's currently in deployment globally with different countries, firms, and so forth. A lot of our work is, as I'm sure you'd appreciate, is confidential, but some of the projects we're doing are in the public realm. One of which is particularly applicable to today's topic, and that is our work in Palau. Palau is issuing a national stablecoin on the public XRP Ledger. Some interesting things about Palau to know. First of all, they don't have a central bank. So they're not issuing a CBDC, as it were. They're issuing a dollar-denominated government-backed stablecoin. And interestingly, there's a lot of lending among and between families and friends on Palau, short-term lending. And that exists because there aren't credit cards on Palau. So it's very difficult to access short-term liquidity. It's not profitable or viable for a bank to issue a loan for $50 with a 2-week maturity. So citizens rely on each other. Your credit is only good in that environment, as good as your reputation. And so understanding all of these things, we spent time with the government to put together a pilot program. And the first phase of the pilot is processing payroll for government employees. The idea here is to showcase the benefits of the technology in a meaningful and tangible way and demonstrate a use case that has real world benefits. Looking to the future, we envision launching things like micro-lending protocols that facilitate peer-to-peer lending. Now, that's not something that can currently be done in Palau, but using this technology, it can be done fast, cheap, securely, and it will be beneficial, cost-effective for the provider, and financially beneficial for the citizens of Palau. So imagine a scenario where, for example, the Bank of Guam decides to structure a liquidity pool, which enables it to provision new services, generate revenue to the citizens on the island, and equally, maybe scale down their brick and mortar footprint as a cost savings. On the other hand, the citizens of Palau can access the liquidity pool to create credit, access short-term liquidity, and use future government payrolls as collateral for any loans they obtain. And they can also pledge money into the liquidity pool to earn interest. So these are things they can't currently do. When I think about using technology and stablecoins to enable financial inclusion, this is exactly the kind of use case that I think Ripple is focused on. And it's the kind of thing we're seeing opportunities like this all around the world. My one takeaway from engagements like this, and it holds true everywhere we go, is that there is no size-fits-all solution to addressing these problems. Yes, there are common themes, but all the challenges are unique, and you really have to understand how to address them. And we talk a lot at Ripple about how to do that. That's the hard part. That's the fun part. But I think that's where we will have our greatest impact. Ripple is approaching this gap with a technology that we built, which is a private ledger that enables central banks and commercial banks and other firms to issue and manage digital currencies, the full life cycle of a digital currency, for any number of use cases, many of which we can't even imagine today, which is enormously exciting. The technology is based on the public XRP Ledger, which has been in production for the last decade.
So over 3/4 of global financial institutions are interested in using DeFi to meet their business needs. So how many people really knew that? I didn't even know that. I mean, that's significant. That's huge. That's 75% of all the people that they surveyed said, three out of 4 people, global leaders said, oh, we're interested in using DeFi. So they're not trying to own DeFi. They're looking to use DeFi. DeFi is coming to an institution near you. Despite being fairly nascent, this year's findings in Ripple's new value report, Crypto Trends in Business and Beyond, findings make it clear that financial leaders are keeping a close eye on institutional DeFi, and many have already begun to explore or integrate DeFi solutions within their organizations. 76% say they are interested in institutional DeFi as a means to drive innovation for their business in areas like management of risk, liquidity, and identity.
I'm going to hone in on, because his words and what he says, the community has selective hearing. They only want to hear certain things, and they don't understand other things, they ignore it. Well, what we do here is we listen closely. It's the things that people ignore that are the most important. And he discloses that he's basically the head of strategy. Nobody reports to him, and they're aiming for, he says it straight out, top-down DeFi.
But also, a lot of what I do is about the company strategy. We're like a leading company rapidly evolving in a rapidly evolving space. And so we're building products for customers that don't exist, and we're trying to predict where the market's going to be when our initiatives come to fruition. And when you do that, you can't just ask your customers what they want, because your customers don't exist yet, or you don't know who they are. And so it's a little bit more of a discipline of tracking what's going on in the space, external changes like regulation, technology, internal ideas that you have, and then aiming that into a strategy and then fine tuning that. And that's a significant fraction of really what all of the senior leadership at Ripple does. But I particularly tend to focus on that. I have zero reports. There's nobody who reports to me. There's nobody who will say that I'm their boss.
And I thought about this. Is there any other entity on the planet that could possibly target institutional DeFi? Like, that means that institutions participating in decentralized finance on public ledgers.
Why institutional DeFi is making waves. 76% of global financial leaders are interested in exploring DeFi as a means of driving innovation for their business in the next 3 years. Look at these numbers. These are staggering. So significant or massive DeFi impact is anticipated across a variety of use cases. This is 88%, 87%, 83%, 86%, all for using DeFi products. So this is why Ripple has completely pivoted their business model from cross-border payments to institutional DeFi, because this is the ultimate prize. This is the so-called end game for a company positioned like Ripple, which has an underlying blockchain that's getting now the enhancements to facilitate the liquidity, the trading, and the identity. So you have a service layer of compliance on top. But what do they have to say about the demand for institutional DeFi? There is burgeoning demand for institutions, banks, central banks, payment service providers, crypto PSPs, fintechs, and more to use DeFi as a critical future financial framework as an alternative to traditional financial services. DeFi leverages immutable public ledgers and smart contracts to enable 24/7, 365 access to financial services, new markets, buyers and sellers, and often near real-time transactions that are fast, secure, and transparent.
In private pools and on CBDC ledgers, but institutional DeFi is defined as being on public blockchains, but with the same regulatory compliant requirements fulfilled. So to do that, there's many barriers.
Institutional DeFi leverages that core functionality and approach and layers on existing financial compliance frameworks necessary for institutions to take advantage of the inherent benefits of the blockchain. This not only helps ensure financial integrity and appropriate safeguards for consumer protection, regulatory compliance, and risk analysis, but also enables a global, out-of-the-box, flexible, inclusive, lower cost, and more efficient system, all without compromising security and stability.
And then just to be able to make it an environment for institutions to test. I couldn't think of any other entity that's capable of doing this and has the true capabilities that Ripple does. You have a private CBDC ledger with sidechains, with a decentralized chains built into it, with programmability, with hooks, and you have a network of them. And then you have an underlying public blockchain that's the same technology that's proven out. You have RippleNet, which is a global 500 plus member payment messaging network that's being converted into integrating with Liquidity Hub. That's why this was 6 months ago he was saying this. And this is what they're focusing on. But this converges with tokenization, stable coins, CBDCs. They don't live in isolation.
The Internet of Value, with a full spectrum of DeFi lending enabled, will mean that borrowers and lenders can seamlessly find yield and maximize their economic returns with whatever tokens and assets they wish to hold. However, already they are beginning to attract interest from institutional players who have only invested in the traditional financial markets, powering the Internet of Value, such as asset tokenization. The concept of yield. I hope everyone hears that, is much more familiar to financial service professionals. Therefore, traditional financial services companies may seek to incorporate DeFi into their offerings sooner than expected. As things stand, the traditional money market, underpinned by central banks, will not disappear. The increased interest in CBDC development, the conventional money market, and DeFi will converge in the foreseeable future. Boom. I hope that was a light bulb moment for many of you, because that's what this is all about. And this is why in their 2022 report, Ripple started targeting institutional. And as David Schwartz said, we are going to go after top down because we can and nobody else can. It's ambitious. They got all the corridors. They got 40, 50 corridors open. Now it's time. We got to move on. And this means, though, that the community is going to develop the ground up ecosystem, and that's going to converge with the private CBDC ledgers. And I do want to let everyone in on a not well-known fact. These ledgers right now are not using XRP, but they're testing grounds for more than CBDCs. And if XRP is even used in any of these private ledgers, and say it's a private pool, just like RippleNet is now, it still impacts XRP, if it's public or private. Because the interest from institutions on DeFi is so significant. The numbers are staggering. So let's look. The perceived interest. Here we go. Let's see. What do they say? Findings from our research are in line with those expectations. The vast majority of global respondents expect significant or massive impact of DeFi practices and protocols across all areas measured. As the figure below demonstrates, the relatively even split shows us there's anticipated effects of institutional DeFi are many. Nearly half of all respondents are extremely interested in exploring DeFi as a way of driving innovation over the next 3 years. And another nearly 30% are very interested. So does that resonate? This isn't like 10%. This is the majority, or 80% plus. But then when digging in, which areas respondents are most keen to leverage DeFi in their business, we learned that there is strong interest in the use of technology across a variety of applications. Of those areas we surveyed, specifically in our study, response rates were nearly evenly split across using DeFi for various business needs. Financial institutions, in particular, are optimistic about DeFi in their businesses. In fact, upwards of 15% claim they've already exploring or using DeFi for those purposes. So this is going to creep up on people and the community and the industry at large.
And what I envision is a marketplace where different products coexist. Now, what will the makeup of that future look like? I don't think any of us can speak with certainty, but I can imagine CBDCs coexisting with stablecoins, with crypto, and they'll serve different parts of the market based on preferences and use cases, and satisfy different requirements. You take all of that and you overlay a regulatory framework that's going to vary by jurisdiction. which will also have a big hand in dictating what is and isn't available to any community, whether it's a developed or developing nation. So I think that's kind of the reality of the way all of this is evolving. I don't see a winner-take-all here. I see a combination of assets in the marketplace. And just one interesting anecdote that I'll add on to this. We was having a conversation recently with a central bank from a major economy, and I made this exact point in the question: why, about trust and disintermediating, using technology to disintermediate the current system for the benefit of the users. And the response I got was very interesting. This gentleman was an economist, and he said, we're not really mitigating risk at all by doing that. We're actually just moving it around to a protocol potentially. And you can look around every day. We wake up, sadly, to somebody that lost their crypto or some other thing that happened in the market. You can trust those protocols if you're comfortable doing so. I think there are going to be alternatives, and at the end of the day, it's up to the user to decide what's most suitable for them. So I think that's probably the most honest answer here and now. Going back to your initial questions, Alchan, there are certainly themes that we see with stablecoins and challenges to adoption with all crypto. User experience is definitely one of them. There are preferred payment methods, and it varies. They vary by market. So in developed countries, you might have credit cards, and in developing economies, you might have remote mobile payments. The preferred payment method is the competition. That is, any new technology that you're going to introduce has to be as good as or better than the current market preference. And if it's not going to be adopted. One of my colleagues uses an anecdote that he says, if my grandmother can't go to the corner store and buy her groceries with it, then it's too complex. And that's one of the reasons cash has been so popular and effective. It's very straightforward. Everybody can understand it. It's easy to use, and there are a lot of elements in cash that people value, like privacy and finality. And these things need to be as simple and understandable and functional as that standard. If you look around at some of the offerings in the market, I would suggest we still have a ways to go. But looking at how far we've come and hearing from the other panelists today, I'm enormously bullish on the trend line of where we're heading. Thank you.
That is a must-have. The XRP Ledger uses order books instead. These work, and they work well. They just don't provide as much liquidity as automated market makers can. And I think another important point is automated market makers allow stakeholders to get a return from the profits the automated market maker gets, and not having that is big.
I think another important point is automated market makers allow stakeholders to get a return from the profits the automated market maker gets, and not having that is big.
And just the way the automated market maker works. So I'll give the short version of why it's interesting to me is in almost every other arena, volatility is a minus. An automated market maker turns volatility into
yield.